What's up? This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, and I am your host, Sean Dustin. Well, it is Friday, and it's been a long week. Actually, it's been longer than a long week. It's been a long 4 weeks. I think it's been since I started working here. Maybe this is the third week. I'm not sure, but it's been an adjustment for sure. And I haven't been putting out as much content, but I'm trying to get that under control, at least on the podcast platforms. These ones that we're doing, the live streams, aren't that difficult for me to do schedule, but it's turning it into the podcast and switching it over and all of that, and the show notes and all the other stuff that goes with it that makes it a little bit more time consuming. So bear with me. On that front, we will definitely get that going. And so I'm doing a couple of different things. I'm working on the, if you're over listening on Green Room, this is the first time I'm doing this. So we're going to have a guest on the show today. We're going to be talking about childhood trauma, addiction, and recovery in his story, Lona Currie. And so once this is over and you have any questions, if you're listening on the live stream, which if you want to see the live stream, all you got to do is hit my YouTube link down there for the Green Room in my profile, and that'll take you right to it, or Periscope, which is Twitter Live. So you guys over there, you can watch that live stream, or you can just continue to listen over in the room. And if you have any questions after Lona tells his story, then if you have any questions, just raise your hand and I'll bring you up to the stage and you can go ahead and ask them. If you're on YouTube, do me a favor and thumbs the video up, like it, share it, do all of the things on all of the different platforms. So that's about as much as I'm going to go into right now. And let's just go ahead and get right into this. I'm going to play the intro, and as soon as we're back, we'll start this conversation with my friend Lona.
Sean Dustin spent time in federal and state prison for drug trafficking and fraud. Upon release in 2006, he had nothing but the clothes on his back, a bag of mail, and legal paperwork. In 2010, he kicked a long-time methamphetamine habit and started the long climb back up the ladder of life. This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast. If you want transparency and authenticity, you're in the right place. This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, and this is Sean Dustin.
How's it going, Lona? You guys trying to share real quick?
No, look like you got something going. It's like, oh, I didn't mean to push that one. What's up, Big Sean? Thanks for having me here, man.
Yeah, no, man. Thanks for coming on the show. I definitely am jazzed to hear your story. And we talked a little bit on the phone, or actually it was a Zoom call. And we had a good conversation. We have some mutual friends.
We do.
Tiffany Werner from Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. Yep. That's a mental health podcast. She is a licensed mental health counselor and a friend of both of ours. But how you came to me was through another mutual acquaintance, which is Pamela, who is what does she do? The hypnotherapy?
Breakthrough hypnotherapy, baby. And it works, and it's so awesome. And I love Pamela. Pamela's work, man. She's one of those people that when she's in her calling, you know what I mean? Like she's in her thing that she was born to do, and you can feel it, man, when she, whenever you get a service from her. It's just really awesome, and she's a beautiful human being. I'm grateful to know her.
Yeah, I did the sample one, and I think I might try a little bit longer.
Oh yeah.
Because it was I had so much. My brain was bouncing around, and it was hard for me to like focus in. So
Yeah, and it does that in the beginning too. You know what I mean? When you're first starting and it's not really something that the brain is actually trying to reject it too in a way. So like the brain is, it takes a few times, especially if if it's not already part of your routine. And see, for me, it's part of my routine. I sleep every night. I sleep every night with hypnosis, and so for me it was a natural, and she's a natural, so it's good.
oh yeah. So if you're watching me put my finger up to my mouth, my daughter is in here, and I'm trying to get her to be quiet, but she seems to want to be in here. So you might hear a little almost 4-year-old girl. She might even pop up here on the stage. So
she's super sweet.
So sorry about that in advance, but I mean that's just you got co-parenting as single dad. That's just kind of how the something rolls.
Yeah, it's the something, all right. Look at there. You got to let her make her entrance. She's gonna make us look good, man. She's gonna make us look good.
You want to say hi, real quick, okay?
See, you're building a star.
Yeah. So this is Sienna, everybody. This is my daughter. She's almost 4 years old. Say hi.
That's great.
All right, you're still in the show, little girl. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead. I need to put you down so we can continue this. Okay, I'll be done in probably 45 minutes. Oh, thank you, sweetheart. I love you too.
That's recovery right there, man. That's recovery.
Absolutely. I mean, recovery. Kids. When I had her, everything just changed completely. The way I looked at everything, the way the way I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up in the world, all of that just sort of changed and made me want to be a better person so I could be a better role model.
Heck yeah, man. That's the same thing how my story was is, my son became my one thing. I just wanted to be there for him. And he was an early teenager and I was in that relapse, man. And I thought, I can't the biggest thing in my life was that I don't want to know that he's suffering somewhere in the world because I taught him how to cope with his life and his problems through using and going in that deep, dark hole. So, he was the reason I got up every day. He was the reason I white knuckled through many days of wanting to use. He was the reason I got back up every time. And, that's amazing. We think and that we're here to teach our children, but so many times our children teach us far more about life and love and acceptance. And just everything, man, everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I see Joe down there. What's up, Joe?
Big Joe.
He's one of the first ones, or one of my early podcasts that I had. Joe Potosi. He's got a story too.
Yes, he does, man. And I love that guy. He is like, man, he's like a brother. We have so many mutual acquaintances, but he's like another brother of mine, man. He has got a heart that is just pure. You know what I mean? You meet somebody special in the world and you know it, man. You know it.
Yeah, he's a good dude. Good dude.
Yes.
So let's get into your story. You suffered with addiction and childhood trauma, and then also, you're in recovery as well. You're a podcaster. You have the Recovery Soulfood Podcast. So you're in it, right? You're in this space, and you found your authentic self at some point in there as well too. So let's dive into this.
Let's dive into it, man. Well, I knew really early. I was 4 years old when I made the connection that my body, my mind, and my heart and everything just did not match. But I'm 4 years old. I was the age your young daughter is, don't know what that means. Just know that it's different. But I started experiencing some sexual abuse from one of my mom's husbands very early. It started when I was 5. And that really made like the whole body shame thing really real for me. So I always knew, and that was a very abusive situation. I grew up with the sexual abuse that lasted from I was 5 till I was 11. I gained a lot of weight in that time because I was young and I didn't know how to process what was happening. I was a big kid. So I was this big, awkward girl to the world, boy inside. And I was just awkward all the way around. And it was a very tragic situation. My mom was being abused as well. I was trying to take care of my mom. And so all these deep belief systems about myself were being born all in that time because I was so young and just, experiencing so many grown-up things. But, I grew up in the deep South, very deep, Alabama, in fact, small town Alabama. It was very apparent that I needed to hide these things about myself. When we say I found my authentic self, I gotta say I finally accepted myself and let myself emerge. I started drinking when I was 11 years old, and that was the first time that I realized, oh, wait. It was like I've heard somebody else say, it was that first drink. Just the moment that, I ingested the alcohol, that was the answer for me because it allowed me to forget about all that, I felt I was lacking. It just helped me escape that pain. And it also brought me closer to my father, who I desperately wanted him to see me as, I wanted people to see me for the son that I was, but it just never happened. So there was always this fight inside of me, man. I was an angry human being. I began self-mutilating, in fact, when I was 12 and 13, when puberty started happening. I mean, this body really started morphing out on me in ways that was really detrimental to my spirit because I thought it was bad enough. And then when puberty started hitting, it really got bad. And so I would do a lot of things to try to hide myself. And I can't tell my recovery story without telling this part of it because, this is part of what I was running from. This was part of what I was numbing because, there is a lot of, I call it religious abuse, in the deep South in the late 70s and 80s. And so there was a lot of talk about things that I was secretly going through that was, telling me that I was going to go to hell. I often equate it to being locked up in solitary confinement for a crime I never committed. And it was like getting a life sentence for something that I never even committed. I knew that I was born like this. I never made a choice. In fact, I spent many years making the choice to try to fit in. I did everything I could. I ended up started getting, put in these like rehab facilities when I was 15. The first one, I was mutilating myself. My mom was in another abusive relationship. This one wasn't sexual, but it was very emotional and physical. So I was being told I was stupid and lazy and fat and was never going to be anything. I was weird and just all this stuff. So I was a very isolated human being. I woke up every day wishing for death and asking the question, why me? And I believed that I was God's little joke. And that was I can't even say that to where it really, really iterates how much I believed that. And, I couldn't understand. I was confused. I didn't know how I was ever going to live a life. Most abuse victims have this belief system that they're not ever going to be able to live a regular life anyway. But, I had that on top of other stuff. So I got sent when I was 16, I got sent to a Christian girls' home in West Monroe, Louisiana. Now, I ask any heterosexual male at 17 years old to imagine having to go live in amongst 40 women of the same age and really have to hide yourself. It was pure torture for me. It was a very religious place. We were forced to wear dresses all the time. We didn't go to regular school. We learned about the Bible. I remember them pulling me into a room and them telling me that God told them that I was going to be a lesbian. And I didn't even know what that word meant at the time, but that was not acceptable. And if I wasn't careful, it was going to happen to me. Like it could just it was a mess, man. And so the moral of all of this story is I was building a wall of shame that was far bigger than anything that I could see over. And so using was my option. I, began using, started with alcohol. And of course it went to, marijuana. Then it went to this little stuff called poppers back in the day. They had those things. It was anything. But when I found opiates, that finally gave me that relief, that happiness, a relief. I was morbidly obese. I kept reaching at external things, thinking that would fix me. So they were right. I did turn into a lesbian. And they told me it was going to happen at college. So I made sure, I had to go to college. I was like, well, they told me, so I'm going to college, buddy.
I got an experience to catch.
They told me where it was happening. I'm going. So, sure enough, they were right. I thought that, okay, well, maybe I can live here. This is pretty comfortable. I can forget about this other part of me because I, like a lot of people, equated those things myself. And I was still different, unhappy, still had to hide because, of course, I was at a very religious college. Then, fast forward, I thought, well, if I lost this weight, I'd be happy. So I had a surgery that ended up getting to be a weight loss surgery as well. It's like a twofer. And I lost a lot of weight, man, like 100 pounds. I was bartending at this huge, gay bar in San Antonio. I was getting a lot of external attention. I was using meth at the time, so my confidence level was out the roof. But yet I was still empty. I was still lonely. I always say it was, if you try hard enough, you can put a round peg in a square hole. Doesn't mean it fits well, and it doesn't mean it's easy to stay there, but that's kind of how I was in this life. But I was still spiraling down, and I was using a lot. I lost 100 pounds within 6 months. I was completely unhealthy. All of that external stuff, Sean, never did it. And each time I would get to that place where I would think, oh, okay, that's going to make me happy, or this person's going to make me happy, or that drug will make me happy. I found myself being even more hopeless at the end because it didn't work. And you get to the end of all the what can I do's, and then what do? I was a hopeless human being. Oh, yeah. That's a pretty good comment right there.
So can childhood abuse turn them into abusers themselves? Is that
I think
how you take that?
Yeah, that's how I take that. And that was true for my abuser. My abuser had been abused, and I remember hearing that really early on, and I remember how much that scared me. that scared me so bad when I heard that I was very super hands off with kids, even though I loved kids. That hearing that way back when I was young scared me. And of course, you couldn't talk about it because I hadn't told anybody my secret. So that's a very good point that Norman brings up, because I do think it can. I think that it's that's a very, however it chooses to happen. But I know that for my abuser, and I would feel sorry for him when he was abusing me because of what he had been through, and I had known what he had been through. I almost felt sorry for him. It's like that trauma bond that you make with abusers. It's, I think sexual abuse in a lot of ways, any abuse really, but I think sexual abuse especially is a very sticky subject, because there are a lot of different things that happen on the emotional side. I wanted a father because I didn't know my father when this was happening. I didn't know my biological father. I didn't know where I came from. I knew that I was different from my mom and her family. They were real passive. I was real angry and aggressive. I just knew inherently that I was different from them. And I just wanted to be a part of a family. And so here was this man. I'm with you, Norman. Here was this man that was, he almost made me think that this was like our special bond in a way. And that really, really snuck in my head, man, and caused me so much just, this can't be true, so much uncomfortable. And it was almost like something attached itself to me, to where it happened so much. It happened so many times. But I think people that are predators can sniff out a victim. And I was definitely, one of those kids that could be victimized. I had already been. It's what I'd learned to do,
Yeah, you were kind of groomed in a way. Yeah?
Absolutely.
And I think another part of this, and I've talked to a lot of females that have been that were molested by their stepfathers.
Yeah.
Right. And, some of them, I mean, there's that other part of it that, sometimes it felt good. Right. And then so there's that is compiled on top of it.
Yeah.
Like, I like what's happening, but I don't know what to do.
But it's not
you know
right.
What I mean? Yeah, it's not right.
Yeah.
And it's weird. And so, I've heard that as well. And that's hard to that's hard to swallow, right?
It is. It's very hard to swallow, because that starts building that shame even more, because, when you're a kid, you don't really know to differentiate. You just know this, feels like this, and, and I can understand those. I can understand those points. It was very, very scary for me. But I have also, because, I have done a lot of trauma work. I also, work with a lot of people in that, and I get that. And that's hard for people to actually say and admit, because they're so scared to be judged. Mm-hmm. And yeah, exactly like Lisa says, and that one feels guilty, because you're just a kid. You don't know any different, and you're dealing with these adult things. It's kind of the same, for the same reason that I started gaining weight, because I was a kid. So what I thought, I knew that what was happening was like sex. So I only knew what I'd seen in the movies and grown-ups, that sex equaled attraction. Mm-hmm. And I had always been told I was a pretty little girl, and I had this really long hair, which I hated. But, I was always told all of this stuff. So I thought, okay, he must think I'm pretty. This is why this is happening. I got to make it stop. So I chopped all my hair off, and I started emotional eating, and eating a lot. And I gained a lot of weight, and it didn't work. But that was set in me. That was set in me to where now before I even started using substance, I was using food to try to numb those emotions. And so it was just a very hellish life,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can
But
imagine. It's just, you don't know. I mean, I get it, but having a kid and having a daughter, and it just, to me, when I look at that, I'm like, how do you,
I
like, how
know.
could you even think of even thinking that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's like such the purest thing,
Hmm.
watching a child like grow up and not have any of that kind of stuff done to them, and then after that it's all over. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Once you
That's
do
it.
that,
That's it.
it's done, it's over.
That's it.
You screwed that person up for a long time, not to mention
Absolutely.
it's just wrong. So I mean, every time I've talked to some women that have been molested by their own fathers, and that's just like, that's so crazy to me.
It is. It is. And the sad thing is that, 1 in 4 women, that's the statistic. 1 in 4 women. That means every 4 women that you pass in a day, one of those at least has been molested, sexually abused, or raped. Like, we got to put a stop to that. Like, it's like we're moving our world and our society in ways where we now all carry a computer with us everywhere, but we can't stop raping women. We can't stop raping other people. We can't stop doing this stuff. And what I appreciate about you, Sean, and shows like this, and this is why I wanted to step out of my comfort zone and start to be the guest, is because the more we talk about these things, the more the shock value kind of wears off and the stigma starts to change, because we all know the stigma stays when the shock value is there. But the more we just talk about it, and more people really overcome that shame, because the shame within you wants you to just be quiet. Don't let this out. It's the fear of rejection. Shame says they're going to reject me if I say this. And, I think that's what I appreciate about you, is you're not afraid to talk about subjects like this. That's important. It's very important, especially for a male, to step up and talk about subjects like this, because it's happening every day. And I'm not in any way putting a bad rap on the South, by any means, but unfortunately, it's a very common thing in the South. In fact, it was so common that a lot of times when you tell, the people that you tell are like, just this is what happens. So, just shut that down. Don't talk about it anymore. This will be a generational thing. And we got to put a stop to it. Everybody have these wonderful bodies and these beautiful brains, and each and every one of us should be able to have all of that intact to begin to grow up and make awesome, amazing decisions. Because I spent so much time in my life focused in on that pain that I never could do anything past it. And for me, with my addiction, I thought, I'm already ruined. So what's the point? Like, I just wanted to die. And, I tried to very often. I lived in a place of pure misery with moments of induced joy, never any real joy. And, I guess that's why I do what I do and speak out about these things, is because, there is a different way. Like, nobody told me that I had as much control as I actually have over my emotional state, over how I see my life, over how I see my past, over actually living in my authentic skin. Nobody ever said that. And I want to say that loud to every human being that would watch this in any capacity, that might be sitting in that same mindset and they feel like they're stuck. in this place of being victimized because that's the life they know, you can get up from your give up. You can create a life that you love, and it doesn't matter whether anybody else loves it. What it matters is you love it. And that was my realization, man.
Yeah, and putting people around you that will support you and not like supporting, meaning that, they support what your ideas are. You want to do this. Okay. You're not being ridiculed. Oh, that's a stupid idea.
Yeah.
What people tend to do a lot, especially family members, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
When, you think you want to be a podcaster. Oh, that's silly. Who do you think you're going to be, Joe Rogan or something?
Right.
You know what I mean? But that doesn't matter who it is that we think we're going to be. What matters is that, that creativity, that outlet, that whatever it is supported and felt like it's supported. It may not, I may not pan out to be anything, but I mean,
Right.
you know what I will remember though? I'll remember that you were there supporting me the whole time.
That's right.
And you supported me when I failed, you supported me when I succeeded, you were there.
Absolutely.
And
without a doubt.
I would much rather remember that than the other. Like, you actually tried to sabotage me at every turn.
Yeah.
Every chance you got, you put me down. Every chance you got, you told me how I wasn't going to be able to do it.
Yep. And also, the one thing that I think we could really be proud of is whether these things that we're doing take off and produce what our dreams, which we hold the vision, we take steps toward it. There ain't no way it's not going to pay off the way the vision has it. We're where we're supposed to be. But I lived with regret, always regret. I didn't do this in my life because I was in the wrong body. I didn't do this in my life. I really wanted to do this, but I never did. I didn't really want to do this, and I never did. So I lived with all of those regrets, man. And I just got to a place where I thought, dude, why are we going to dedicate, this life that was given to me? I'm leaving it in the hands of the abusers. I'm leaving it in the hands of the haters. When do I stand up and get to live my life? So I at least want to know I tried and I gave it everything I had. When I got the vision to begin a podcast, it was never supposed to be video. That wasn't me, man. I was never going to come out and say, that just wasn't me. But I didn't have a computer. I didn't have a dang clue how I was supposed to do it. I just had used podcasting as my recovery program. I would put in my earbuds. I'd work all day. I'd listen to podcasts about the mind, about, motivation, inspiration all day long. And I said, I got some of this in me. Like, I'm growing from this. This is a platform where people grow. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to do it. And I just spoke it out there, man. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I kept the vision in my mind. And little by little, man, I saved up the money. I bought a laptop. I just kept learning. I bought some books, got a mic. Now I have a full studio, man. And now this thing has turned video. This is what we do, man. And I'm proud of us because we did this in the street, dude. You can't tell me there weren't days when you woke up with nothing. You didn't know where your next fix was coming from. You had no money. You had no prospects. Nobody trusted you. Nobody was going to give you shit. But you had a vision. You knew your why, and you went after it. And whatever's whatever, you got it. So that success, man, that lives in you still. That heart of success lives in you. So we got to use it.
Yeah, there was something that I was listening to, and it was one of these speaking engagements that I was a part of, or speaking summits that I did, and one of them said, you need to collect rent from your pain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So stop, or start getting paid for your pain.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so,
And that
and
makes great
however that,
sense.
yeah, however that transpires, whether it's, you write a book about it, or start a podcast and start monetizing your story,
Yes.
any of those things, because that pain and that shame and that guilt and all of those things have been residing inside of you and allowing you to not be the best you. And it's
Absolutely.
all about you, right?
That's it.
This whole life's journey, people say, oh, well, don't be selfish. Well, I mean, you kind of have to be. I mean, that's an oxymoron,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You
Exactly.
you have to be somewhat selfish to want to be a better person, right?
Absolutely.
And making sure that your boundaries, wherever, whatever you figured out for yourself, those are where they are. When the red flags come up on whatever things are, from our experiences, we have to be able to assert ourselves in a way that we no longer are being, whether it's victimized, whether it's being pushed around, whether it's being, any of these things. You have to be clear about, one, you got to know yourself.
Absolutely.
Two, you have to have forgiven yourself for whatever
Mm-hmm.
those things are. And
Mm-hmm.
three, you have to have start loving yourself, because you can't be anything to anybody until you're everything to you.
That's so true, man. And I didn't, I used to hear that in the rooms because I've made several attempts over a 22-year addiction to get clean and sober. And I've gotten some time under my belt, but these past 8 years have been the only time that I've ever actually attempted true recovery, which meant I knew I needed to heal my shit. Like I couldn't just, try to hold back the dam of wanting to use and my coping mechanism if I wasn't going to deal with the stuff that that kept me going back and going through all of this. And as you know, man, recovery is a journey. There's like no destination we get to. We're always going to be learning new stuff about ourselves, but being able to get to a place little by little where you start really accepting yourself and loving yourself and redefining what selfishness means, because I think that self-love is when we take care of ourselves and we put a boundary that says, man, I don't have to do this anymore. Like I don't have to let you speak to me that way. I don't have to let you, treat me this way. I don't have to stay in a situation like Pamela says to me all the time, if it's not a hell yeah, then it's a hell no. And if you're in a situation that's not a hell yeah, it's a hell no. Get out of it, man.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And you don't and love being surrounded by strong people that are willing to say, this just, I don't know, this doesn't feel right for me right now. I'm not really aligned with this, and so I'm gonna back out of this. And I don't have to explain, because sometimes you can explain, but I don't have to explain, this just doesn't feel right for me right now. And learning how to say that when we come from, I think this is what the stigma does to people. When you're out there in that life, you believe you're an addict. And what you believe about yourself is the boundaries you're going to set around yourself. And so if you believe you're an addict, what do addicts do? They lie, cheat, and steal. They ultimately go to jail, prison, or they die. That's what you're going for, because that's the label you've got around you, and you cannot live past your label. And so when from the first time you said you were an addict, you didn't believe it. How many people come in the rooms and do step one and are bullshitting? They don't actually believe. But you say it long enough. You say it long enough, and eventually that thing gets down into that subconscious mind, which is your soul, and you cannot perform greater than what you believe. And so when we get in that place, we're starting to look at the world through the belief system of an addict. We don't believe there's anything more for us. That's going to take a while to get out of whenever you come into recovery. It's going to take you a while to learn and expose all those belief systems that still live in that stigma. This is why, podcasts like we do, speaking engagements like many of us do, books that are being written about trauma, this is why this stuff has to come out, because we got to shatter the stigma, not even just for the general public to stop treating people bad, but for the people in recovery themselves to stand up and say, I'm not going to let you treat me bad. Because nobody today, Sean, can treat me any kind of way that makes me feel some kind of way unless I open myself up and allow it to happen. And I think more than anything, we're not going to shatter the stigma for the general public. We got to shatter the stigma in-house. And eventually we walk tall. We do stuff like this. We come up. We change the world when we change ourselves, and that ripples out.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I know that you and I, we both share, like my brother or my sister now is trans as well. And so, I mean, we've had this conversation, and, it was difficult for me.
Sure.
And, it, as a family member, not understanding, for one, and the other, just, it's a little bit different because it's the death of one personality and
Sure.
the birth of another one.
Absolutely.
But you got to be able to have that, like, there's no grieving process. It's just like, hey, hello, I'm still here, but I'm just different now.
Yeah.
And okay, all right, but we used to play basketball. We used to do all these other things. Those are gone. That person is no longer here. And so, it was a tough one for me to kind of get through. And, I've gotten through it, and it's still, there's some things that I don't understand, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, well, it's not your life.
Right. That's
It's
the big point. Yeah.
It's not your life. Does it affect you in any way? Well, no. Is she happy? Well, apparently so.
Yeah.
Well, then clap and say good for you, and
Right.
I wish you well, and I hope that you're happy, and let's continue on down that road.
Absolutely. Because likely what happened is, and I'm so grateful too, once again, that you bring up that grieving process, because, we sometimes, I think, family members that aren't going through transition are kind of scared to speak up sometimes because, it's a touchy subject, and you don't want to, it's like trying not to be a racist by saying, I'm not a racist. You don't want to say anything, but at the same time, you're kind of living with these feelings. I believe for myself and my mission through all of this, because I've lived several different lives in this one lifetime, in this one body. I've lived several different lives. I don't think that is for nothing. I think there's a mission behind it all. My mission for basically just a human race is that we're all looking for our internal happiness, each and every one of us. And when we see someone who's transgendered, it's like my friend Martin John Garcia says, they're living their shadow work out where you can see it. Like they're doing their inner work where the world can see it, where most people are doing their inner work inside, and they're dealing with their stuff kind of inside and changing their beliefs. For family, what you probably knew for so long was your sister doing her best to try to keep her secret safe, to live up to what other people thought was what, she was supposed to be as a man in the world. And now you do have to grieve what you knew to be her. And what she knows to be her is, this is who I've always been, is this person. And I think my mission with that as well, too, is because, I found myself, I have to be careful. All of us do, because we build identities upon labels. So when I first started my transition, I built a label around being trans, and I'm an activist, so I felt like I'm an activist. I got to be activist for trans. And I had a friend of mine who said, yeah, but why build your identity on that? That's not who you are. It's a part of your life. And I got pissed off at that. I was like, you don't understand, don't tell me that, cis male, heterosexual, you don't understand what I'm going through. But I got what he was saying. It's like, all of a sudden I was fixing to step into that same trap, Sean. I was going to do something external to make the final loop around wholeness. And yeah, this is part of wholeness, but I also had to learn that that wasn't going to fix it for me. That I had to learn who I was, and my identity is as a human being, as a perfect creation as I am. Because a lot of times what happens is trans people will try to do things that are inherently masculine or they're inherently female, and they're just putting on another identity. That's why I used to, in the beginning, there's a lot of pressure on a trans person. What's your name going to be? And what's your dead name? And all this stuff, and use the right pronouns. And I got so damn nervous, I stopped going to my own support group because I was pissing people off. I'm just like, I don't know.
Politics, right? Politics of it.
It's too much, bro. It's too much. And so I just finally came into the place where if I'm doing that I'm doing the exact same thing that I was doing before. I'm pretending so that people don't see that I maybe have some feminine traits and yet I have some masculine traits. And man, I'm just Lona. And I'm appreciating being Lona, and I can be LC or I can be Lona, but I'm never going to change that first name because I fought real hard to have that. But we are representative of people finding their true self. And I think that we can take these moments to be teaching moments, that we should be gentle with our family while having our strong boundaries that says, hey, I understand that you are now going through a mourning period too, but I gotta I need you to get my pronouns correct. I'm not going to bite your head off if you're trying and you slip up sometimes. If you do it deliberately, that's a different story. We'll have to talk about that. But you're trying. It's like with my mom. Oh, I love my mom. Beautiful woman. Grew up, deep South. Generations of different belief systems. I didn't start transitioning until I was 44 years old, man. So for 44 years, she knew me as this one gender. And she fully accepts me. She fully is, with me and on Team LC. But in the same sentence, sometimes she'll introduce me as her son and then say she right behind it. I mean, it's just like, and you see the faces of the people like, oh God, what do I do? Is this a girl? Is it a boy? Holy shit. What's going on here? And I just, instead of getting all nervous and, shrinking down and trying to run, I just got to stand there and let it be, man. I can't be miserable.
Yeah, I've done that exact same thing at family get-togethers, and with everybody there, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's like all of the my mom, she's the same way. She'll run through like, oh, Deshaun, Derek. It's like, it's so funny. Even my grandmother used to do that too, man.
We're just all people, man. We're all just humans. We all have the same basic needs. We're all after the same thing. Everybody wants to find true happiness. And that's why we got to get to a place, man, where I thank my past today for who I am now. If I'd have been born male, if I'd have been blonde-haired and blue-eyed and got to do everything I ever wanted to do, I might not be this awakened to who I am as a spiritual being having a human experience. I might not know that today had I not gone through all this. And I might not know you, and I might not know Joe, and I might not know Pamela, and so many other beautiful human beings. I stopped being mad about all that shit and got really, really glad about it.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you stop just blaming everybody else or blaming something, whatever it is, and just start figuring out how to just move through it.
Yeah.
All right, let's just move through it, man.
Just move through it, man. Just take your power back. Take your power back. I remember where I was sitting on the very, very day that it clicked for me that every time I thought over that abuse, every time I thought, why did he ruin my life? Every time I thought about, being in the wrong body, every time I thought about that, I was giving them the power, and they were doing it to me all over again, even though they were somewhere living their life, not thinking about it. My brain didn't know the difference between 20 years ago and right then. So it was releasing the same hormones. It was, tearing down my internal organs. It was breaking down my body, and it was breaking down my spirit. And in that moment, that 1 second, I took my power back. I was like, bullshit. Sometimes it's just about our perspective, changing a perspective. Just a hair. It's like dialing a radio station. You remember when we used to dial radio stations and you'd get it almost on the music, but it'd still have that crackle in it. And you're like, man, turn it just a hair, and boom, like it connects. You're on. It's up. Keep going.
Yeah, just like when you're trying to move a boat, right? When you're going a long distance, if you move too far to the left, or if let's say you're trying to go to a trajectory to the left, if you move it too far, over a long distance, you're gonna overshoot it.
Yeah.
So you just gotta make them not, real slow, real minute adjustment. And that's kind of what life is, man.
It is.
Life is a bunch of gradual adjustments once you've gotten real with yourself. And for me, the hardest thing to do, I think, was to do the 4-step, because I didn't want to do it with it probably just wasn't the right sponsor, that I didn't feel comfortable with. But I ended up doing my 4-step to the public, through the podcast.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And so it was, all of those, shameful, guilt-ridden things that I would deal with. I just put it out there in the ethos through a podcast and let everybody know my shit.
That's it, man. That's the way to do it right there. Get it all, just rip the Band-Aid off, and here it is, man.
It's like a spades game. You're running the table.
Bam!
There it is. There's another one. There's another one. Get rid of that guilt. Get rid of that shame.
Guilt has no glory. Put it out of here, man. That's the greatest, man.
Yeah, man. But the amazing thing is that once you do that, the power's gone. It's gone. Like it's gone. It's like, all right, well, that. I got nothing to hide, so I got no reason to lie.
That's it.
If I don't have any reason to lie, then
what am I going to talk about?
Yeah, maybe I'll, whatever it is. But it eliminates so much when you can just get all that off your back, man.
It does, man. It does, man. I think I was out of college. I was in my 20s before I ever admitted to another human being that I had been abused, because to me it represented weakness. For me, I couldn't even process my feminine. We're all born with both energies, and I couldn't even process or heal my feminine energy till I began in transition because of the abuse I had suffered. What I watched my mom go through, feminine equaled weak. So I never could show weakness. So I was always on guard, always tough, always ready to fight. This wasn't going to happen to me again. And so it took finding a place, getting all that off my chest, like you said, taking my power back, getting in a space, which was my own body that I felt safe in, to start really celebrating, and seeing how strong women truly are. Like, my gosh, God never made anything as strong as a woman. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. So, I think we're riddled with all this guilt. We're riddled with all this shame. Addiction is a disease of guilt and shame. And when we eradicate that, it's amazing.
Guilt is, or not guilt, but addiction is a lack of connection.
Oh,
And
yeah.
when you don't feel connected to your environment, when you don't feel connected to, you know, your family, you don't feel connected to anything, then you naturally gravitate to something that you can connect with. And a
Absolutely.
lot of the times, you know, drugs, I mean, you end up, people say that. I even say it, like I had an 18-year relationship off and on with methamphetamine. You
Absolutely.
know, sometimes I was in love and sometimes I was in in hate,
Yep.
you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was like the worst toxic relationship ever. We'd fight and we'd break up, and somebody try to kill somebody else and it'd be over with. And then, you know, you get with other people that are using, they're just as lonely. You build these trauma bonds, and those things are the ones that are hard to break when you come in recovery, because you feel, you know, you're living by a street code. So you think, you know, you're turning your back on people, or, you know, all these things. It's hard to separate from that.
Yeah,
And
most 9 times out of 10, most people that have suffered some sort of trauma, or you know, are in addiction, you know, most of us, I don't believe, had a really I wouldn't say I would say a good example of what a healthy relationship even was.
oh my gosh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. We don't know. We have no idea. And it's so, you know, it's natural that, you know, people start to get clean, and then all of a sudden everybody wants to hook up, you know, because you're still reaching for that external something to give you a way to feel almost. And when we say, like, I got myself, I used to say, I just want to feel, but I had spent years numbing out. What I meant was, I just want to feel some type of something good, because for me, I was at a flat line of always feeling bad. So to use gave me what I felt like was a relief, a release, a happiness. And so we keep, you know, grasping external until through the process of recovery and healing, we kind of find out, oh, I got to do this inside. You know, when all that external stuff just fails, I got to do this inside. Now what? You know, it's a process. It's a tough process, man.
Yeah, that inside work is the hardest work, man, because it's the, you know, it's whew, man. There's times when I'll be talking to my VP of my nonprofit, and we're, you know, working through something on a Zoom call, and something will get brought up, or maybe I'll be thinking about something, and it's like I just start bawling, right?
Yeah, man.
And you know, it's, I mean, yeah, I'm working through things, but I mean, by any means am I not fixed,
That's it.
or I'm not fixed by any means. There's still a lot of work to do. It's just I have better tools now
Yeah.
to deal with it.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? I have, I mean, before, where I didn't have any tools, it was just, you know, whatever, you know, I felt, you know, I started using at a young age of 16. So that's probably where my maturity level stopped.
Absolutely.
And you know, it's been catching up ever, you know, since 2010. And
Yeah.
you know, even now, some of those old habits of wanting to be, you know, a selfish, spoiled, you know, individual, you know, angry, I mean, that's it's not gone.
Yeah.
It's just figuring out how to deal with all of that, and not allow it to uh, to take over, but also
Sure.
know how to mitigate that once you feel it coming up. Because I mean, it's all about
Sure.
you know, triggers, and you know, how do you feel in situations. All right, well, and you know, it came from whether you relapsed at some point. You know, figuring those out, mapping those out, is like, oh, I remember what that was. Well, I better stay away from that. I'm gonna go that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. I call it my recovery battle plan. And in fact, you know, that's I'm in the process of writing that planner, is because, you know, like you said in the beginning of the podcast, we've been talking about, know yourself, you know, study your active addiction, study what it is that keeps you tripping up, you know, and start becoming aware so that you can actually make a battle plan. I mean, my battle plan was, I could not listen to the same music. I could not take the same way to work. I mean, I did everything different. I made sure that, you know, I told my treatment program, I said, okay, whatever you guys tell me, I'm going to do it, because you got to know how to help me more than I know how to help myself. And I'm going to bitch about it because that's what I'm going to do. But I'm going to do it. And also, I'm going to be completely honest because all I know how to do is lie. So there's maybe some hurt feelings around, but anything I think to do, I'm going to do the exact opposite of it because I needed change, man. I knew that 9-month relapse, I had two choices. It was recovery or death. I was either leaving that night or to spend the rest of my few days out on the streets, or I was going to get into recovery. And I had to start with my mind, man. Our mindset plays a tremendous part in our everyday life and what we're trying to do in recovery. And gratitude changed my life. That was how I started changing my perspective. And yeah, that was it. It started in my mind.
Yeah, mindset's a really, really good one to be able to get control of, because if you think it, you can be it.
Amen to that, man.
If you can see it in your mind, then you can be it, or you can manifest it out in the material world.
That's right.
You just got to believe. And anybody out there listening, you just have to believe in yourself. We all have the ability to move beyond whatever it is that's holding us back, which is usually just ourselves.
That's it.
And your own thinking, your own, way, and maybe not for everybody, but for the majority of the people, it's just a matter of thinking a different way, changing the narrative in your head.
Yes. Learn to see those tragedies as triumphs. Remember to remind yourself how far you've come. We get caught up in that thing of we always are looking for the next thing, or we always got to do more. We always got to, and we're not really we don't listen to our bodies. We don't listen to our spirits, what they're trying to say. We don't trust ourselves. So we don't, follow that gut feeling of things. And, we just got to start learning how to see. I just want to tell people, the addiction that you feel is the worst thing you've ever done or ever been through or ever have done to other people. That's your superpower right there, because there's a lot locked up in that shows you that you have the ability to get up from wherever you are. You can get up, and don't forget to remind yourself of that sometimes.
Turn that pain into a paycheck.
That's it, man. I love that. I'm gonna be taking that from here on out, man. I'm gonna have to write that mantra down because I like that.
Yeah, I didn't come up with it. I stole it from somebody else.
Hey, ripple effect.
Just like selling hopium.
I love that.
I didn't come up with it, but I certainly like using it because
I like it.
All these coaches and the speakers, and it's like, we're selling hope. I said, no, you ain't selling hope. You're selling hopium.
I love it.
You're trying to get everybody hooked on your hooked on your phonics.
Oh, I love it, man. I love it. That's great. See, I mean, anything can be turned into it, man. We just gotta have the will to do it. Gotta have the will to do it, man.
Absolutely, man. Well, we're at 1 hour and 3, and
wow.
Good times are flowing, right? It's Friday, and we're getting high on connection.
That's right, baby. That's right, man. That's what's up.
So do you want to plug anything? All of the direct links to get in touch with or find where Lona is. The only thing that isn't on there is it is on there because your YouTube channel is your podcast, right? Yeah.
That's my podcast, but you can find the audio on iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, Anchor, all of that stuff. But I really want the YouTube channel to grow, and we've had some great stuff going on the website. So, recoverysoulfood.com, and, always hook up with Breakthrough Hypnotherapy. I'm partnered up with her because I just want to help people heal. And I think that healing those subconscious beliefs is where we can really start getting some help. So check Pamela out at hypnobreakthrough.com and say say you heard it here on Nowhere to Go But Up with Recovery Soul Food, and you know, Pamela's going to get you hooked up and ready to heal. She's good at that. But yeah, and I got the transgender mentor, man, coming up too, and we're doing some stuff on that too. You know, trans people are, I'm not here to teach people about being trans. I'm here to teach people about how to be authentic and love who they are. And, you know, that's my platform. That's what God's given me. So that's what I'll use. You know, life, change, healing. It's a lot like transitioning. It's greasy. It's messy. It's pubescent. But, you know, it's true. It's authentic. So, you know, recoverysoulfood.com, transgendermentor.com, and just find us. Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're in the personal development space, I mean, you're in transition all the time, because
all the time, yeah.
If you are the same person you were 3 months ago, then you're probably not doing this right.
Come on, come on! You know, now you're preaching.
You know, the goal, my goal for daily is to not have to apologize for anything that tomorrow that I did today.
Oh,
so
man,
if I can if I can get through a day like that, then it's a win, right?
Amen. Yes.
Because there's so many times in my past where I spent most of it apologizing for behaviors,
Yep.
you know, you name it. There was something I was saying sorry for, whether I meant it or not.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was just something that you said all the time. So used to it.
Yeah. So I want to thank you. I appreciate the you coming on the show and being patient with the little one back here, making noise, and see if I can, how much work she's created for me on the back end of this thing.
I love it. I love it. She was a true treat, man. I mean, I love to see recovery in action, and there's no greater way to see it than that right there. So she's been a blessing to me, and so have you. Thank you so much. I can't wait to get you on Recovery Soul Food. We got to get that scheduled pretty quick.
Yeah, for sure. Whatever we got to do that, that's fine.
Cool.
And so for next week, there's a couple. I think I have 3 of them scheduled next week. On
awesome.
Tuesday, on Monday, I've got a 5 and a 6. I can't remember who. Another federal person that did federal time will be at 6. The one at 5 is somebody that just jumped in there. But on the 23rd, it's going to be my ex.
I'm really looking forward to that, man.
Yeah, and so that one is going to be with my first daughter's mom, who had my rights terminated when she was 18 months old. So I'm having her on the show to kind of like listen to how did I affect you?
Yes,
you know what I mean?
That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, and so I mean, I guess part of that's like, you know, it's like I'm doing my step work out in the open.
I was just thinking to myself, man, that's gonna be healing.
Yeah,
that's gonna be healing, expanding and healing at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, keep on the lookout for that. Those will be coming next week. And if you're listening on the podcast apps, and I've slowed down on that quite a bit because of work, but I'm going to try and get it back up, because I got a lot of content to get out.
You and me both, bro.
So anyways, I want to thank you. Hold on a second. Once the outro is done, or the exit, the outro, the whatever it is you want to call that thing that's going to take us out of here.
Thanks for having me, man. It's been a blast.
Yeah, thank you, brother. I really appreciate it. And you know, as always, like I say, keep it 100, stay true to yourself. Everything else is just noise.
You've been listening to the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast. Sean is a single dad, a union blue-collar guy, and he spent time in federal and state prison for drug trafficking and fraud. When he was released from prison in 2006, all he had was the clothes on his back, a bag of mail, and some paperwork. Since then, he's turned his life around and shares the struggles and successes on this podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we hope you were moved. To connect to the show, book a guest spot. For merch, Patreon, PayPal, and social media links, go to linktr.ee/nowhere to go but up.
On Instagram at Nowhere to Go But Up Now. On Twitter at But Up Now. On the YouTube channel at Nowhere to Go But Up Podcast.
See you next time.